Welcome to the BPM Chronicles, a BP Expert production where we revisit old blogs and initiate a dialogue between young and senior members of our company, discussing the motivation and content and reflecting on the relevance in today's world. We hope you enjoy the show.
I recently started going through a lot of posts that you guys have posted back in the day since 2015, and it really inspired me to get in touch with you to see how you thought at that particular point of time about these topics that we're going to discuss going ahead. Just wanted to ask a few questions related to one of the topics today, and we would be focusing on ARIS 9. That was the first post that came out in 2015. Just wanted to know at that point of time, how relevant do you feel it is in current situation in the time of AI and machine learning? So how do you think that transforms the content from the business process modeling perspective?
Oh my goodness, you really went deep into the archives.
Yeah,
there must have
2015.
been one of those beware of the leopard sign at the staircase.
I was thinking, so we did found in 2012, so that there's, and I do recall that we started these blogs once we actually set up this Squarespace, web environment.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if this, I guess this is the time when we did start more seriously with the marketing in the company context. But I really think so. Yeah, it's quite a fair while ago. However, as I said, I was wondering if we even somewhere had some older publishing, the artifacts outside of the blog. So maybe we can dig even deeper. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Maybe we can dig even deeper.
True. But looking at it, I was really intrigued. I mean, that switch from ARIS 7 to 9, already that points to how big that change was. I mean, if you're looking at usual transitions in software products, they go like major release, minor release, and they count continuously. Here we have a move from 7 to 9, which is a bit strange on one hand, but it was a very strong sign for how serious Software AG took it after the takeover of Ideas Share to transform ARIS and make it part of their portfolio, of their technology stack, and really overhaul the entire product. So it was a time of big transitions, of big uncertainty, and I guess this was also one of the triggers why we said, oh gosh, we must talk about it because of all that insecurity in the market and the user base.
And think looking back at that time, Prakar, that we founded ourselves coming from the Software AG, and of course a lot of our business and our let's say the way we've been socialized was driven by idea share and ARIS and process driven thinking. And so what we had grown up was with an environment where ARIS was really dominating the market from a BPM tool perspective, had a very wide coverage internationally. On the other hand, it was still very much a client server based system. So it really was like you say nowadays a classic on-prem solution. And there was a lot of criticism, like I think is typical for big IT systems, that you have like a lot of old heritage you're carrying along from in them time, it was something like 20 plus years of development already. Now we're way beyond the 30. And so the Software AG acquiring ARIS, it was clear, as Jochen mentioned, that they need to somehow modernize ARIS, and it took a long time. That's why they skipped the 8. And then after a couple of years, so actually I think the thoughts around ARIS 9 were already triggered as, say, 2011, we were still working for Software G. And it just took such a long time to do this major shift in the architecture. What I think was, and this is why this title "Expectations Met" comes in and is quite interesting or relevant here, is of course due to the time there was a lot of expectations, but also at that time there were other newcomers, new kids on the block. Yeah, so there were more cloud-based offerings on the market that promised to be just decluttered, be simpler. Also, the BPMN standard was something that was just really kicking in. So on the other hand, you had the ARIS, which had a lot of features, a lot of use cases, a high market like coverage, but also had this stigma of being on-prem and too complicated. And there were new clouds solutions coming on the market. So you see here this ARIS Express. So there was also like this, yes, but how can we provide, like a community low cost basis where everything is just much simpler also from the user interface. And this is where ARIS 9 was to provide the answers. Now, Jochen, were expectations met? That's something, or was it a big disappointment?
No, I think to me, it was a huge enabler at the time. I mean, were all expectations met? I don't think we should go down that route. But the biggest change from my perspective as a practitioner really was the enablement of this querying feature, the reports that you put together yourselves. And if you knew the data model of it, if you were familiar with only Excel level formula building, nothing, no SQL, no like more elaborate scripting, no nothing. You just had to have a good idea of what the data model is, and you could already build your queries and get comprehensive tabular reports out of the system, which was unheard of before. And honestly, most of the also easy new kids on the block wouldn't even have such elaborate data models to report from. So to me, this self-service feature that they introduced was fantastic. But yeah, what you also
I'm just reading this here. I'm just Jochen, this is funny. So for me, the most significant shift was that they understood that it's not just about modeling and providing an expert tool for people that do the models, but they clearly, and that's something that the cloud idea brought in as well, is they were also clearly thinking about who consumes processes. And one of the big, and this was also one of the big issues around ARIS.
10 years ago, I came from the nerd end. Give me more nerd capabilities.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's your rabbit hole, and the point was that ARIS was heavily criticized for the bad publisher. So the way it was publishing the content for the end users. That was the business model of certain companies like GBTech, were ex-IDS Share employees that bought out a dedicated ARIS publisher that they brought to market. And then from there, they started developing their own BPM tools. So it was so bad, there was actually a market there for dedicated publishing tools. And ARIS Connect was meant to be the next level of, and the first steps in direction of cloud capability and having a big portal where all the content is displayed. Now, that's the beginning of this phase. And just think about it now. We're still discussing with customers, say like Phoenix Contact, we work with that have gone to cloud and still have like certain artifacts on the on-prem. Let's say other customers as well, don't need to name them all, but So we're talking about, there were already cloud competitors on already there. Like, GBTech was popping up with their where they were doing the shift to cloud, and they did it, very, very clean and crisp. Signavio was, emerging on the market. But still, has the transition with this initial RS9, and we're now RS 10.20 or whatever, so they still haven't done any major kind of like big jump to RS 11. So we're on RS 10 now, but there's still, and there's one element that you can still pinpoint it on. Has the technology transfer to cloud been completed ultimately? I would say 95%, yes. There still is an download client architect is still there. And I know Mark Vitor, he's been dreaming of getting rid of that for a long time. Just goes to show how long it takes. However, also our customers have taken these 10 years to adapt.
Exactly. And one thing that is just on the other end, when we are talking about, everyone complaining about how difficult modeling and using the tool is, I guess one of the most under-adopted tool within ARIS is really this table-based modeling, where you don't have to bother so much about conventions and finding your stuff, but you have your structured table and you get your things in. There have always been these fights. Does it make sense at all? Because when you have gateways and things, how to represent that in tables. But with that cool interaction of, I'm opening a new branch, I'm doing my table-based, very simple, and I'm always reminded of what information I'm supposed to put in, I can do that, and I can do it consistently right. So this is, to me, a big enabler. It's a tool. I don't believe in outputting entire detailed processes into Excel and creating this background reality. I'm very much a fan of working within the tool and having my reports there, but enabling the users to really get to the front of things. That was also a very strong idea that sprouted at those days, and where we've seen small incremental enhancements since. But coming back to Russell, many of our clients still haven't adopted it. They still struggle with the complexity of the conventions they create. So that's been something where maybe even the user base has been more reluctant adopting it than the vendors providing the capabilities. What's your take, Russell?
Yeah, the adoption journey. I mean, we talk about that around the BPM topic. There's definitely, especially when you're looking at the tools, still this my perception is here that you have like IT people talking about software and taking decisions on what they think they need, rather than looking at what platform do we want to provide for the higher case of actually, let's say, providing information to a community. And you have the nerds with their special use cases that are looking at bits and bytes. And again, here, not really thinking about the overarching value that these tools should provide. And there they get, let's say, they get lost in their use case and in the details. And I think that's a general challenge in all IT-related initiatives that you will have, where you have to balance the simplicity and the widespread capabilities of a tool versus then the specialities in this thing. Just one point, because you see this delta training, just for you as an input, just to understand a bit where this comes from. At the days we were thinking of we created like a BP Experts Academy. That was like a thought we had, to see if there is a possibility of generating business and doing dedicated trainings. And we spent so much, especially Jochen, spent so much time doing Delta training. So we bought microphones and cameras, and we did these. We really thought about doing some Udemy scripts, so where you really structure like curriculum, and then we did the video recordings for them. And it's astonishing on which level of proficiency we developed these, and then we uploaded them to Udemy, and then we were like, like the old startups waiting for the ticket to go over and us become rich just because we created one training. No, I'm only joking. Ultimately, I think we still sometimes get revenue because somebody does some ARIS training in Udemy. It's still somewhere there, somebody either randomly gets lost on it or says, oh, an ARIS training, it doesn't realize he's getting an ARIS 9 Delta training. I don't know. But
Yes, correct.
just from a business model perspective, it is a different it's a different set of boots. I mean, our real relevance we can bring in the hands-on training we do in consulting. So from our approach, we have our advisors and our consultants. We go into the initiatives, and that's where we transport knowledge hands-on in the initiatives, and then we pull out. And that's the way we train people. That's the way we create change in initiatives, in organizations, rather than just saying, let's have a frontal communication and training. There's certain other areas where it makes sense to have a training in that way. But the way I look, say, from 2015 to now, the easiness with which people just produce content and publish it, that has changed radically. Everybody's got their TikTok and their Instagram and their shorts and whatever, and they're also very eloquent and very good what is being produced. But it seems to be also very pragmatic. It's not over-engineered. And obviously, at that time, instead of just doing a set of shorts on ARIS 9, we spent a lot of time getting it right. As I said, good content, but I think the approach we would do differently nowadays. And I think this format is good for basic communication, basic education, but to really make things work, and say with ARIS as well, you have to have your initiatives, you have to get your hands dirty, you have to get into it.
It's like with almost any other learning experience, it always comes with relevance and acute relevance. So that's something I always laugh about when I'm in the regulated area with some clients, and before you get access to a tool, you have to do your training. So you go through 150 slides where they explain you click by click how you would do what, but you're not allowed to access the tool yet. So by the time you get the access, you've forgotten about all the slides, and you start learning it by using it from scratch. Whereas the approach we always see working best within customers is really, you have the project, you know what the needs are, and you take people along. And customers are similar but different, and you just focus on the bits that are most meaningful, most relevant, and people complain about BPM tools and their complexity, but everyone claims to be proficient in PowerPoint, and how much complexity is in those sub menus if you're digging for it. So the entry is actually much easier these days, and when things are set up, conventions are prepared properly, most of your difficulty is gone.
Correct. Yeah. I would also like to ask you that both of you talked about ARIS 9 and ARIS 10, and ARIS 9 came out back in 2015, and currently we are in 2025. So what with the globalization and the technological advancements that we see nowadays with AI, machine learning, Internet of Things, cloud computing. So what advancements do you see is ARIS going to provide to organizations in integrating with these technologies when it comes to business process management?
Good question, really. I mean, it's searching for the crystal ball, really. On the other hand, there are the global trends of further automation, of AI, of integrating the data mining aspects into things. So all of them are relevant. But from what I see currently in the communication, I think the adoption and enhancement in the AI area is probably the hottest topic to further simplify the user experience, make it easier to get content into the system, and more intuitive to get content out of the system again. Just as Russell said earlier, these systems are usually fed and maintained by IT or by specialists, but the real value should actually sit by a much, much broader user base. And they don't care for the tool. They just care to get the right information out of it. And I think for that, AI is just wonderfully suited. You have curated content, and unlike asking the broad web where you don't know what's going in it, you have curated content, highly relevant for your very particular situation, and you want to get answers based on that content, enriched from the outside, maybe. That's definitely helpful. But I would see there is a huge driver for broader adoption of BPM in organizations.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think that can happen in an ARIS environment, especially because they, over the last, let's say, 10 years, have continuously worked on, let's say, integrating more of the different use cases. So the process mining used to be a separate tool, and now the journey started that the integration was more on the like the dashboarding, like the people integration layer, but more and more the content is really available, and there's a deeper integration also on the model level. And similarly with the GRC modules around governance, risk, and compliance, also a very separate solution where the master data was more or less coming from the, let's say, static ARIS, and was then processed in the GRC module. This also the integration has grown really strong over the years. So really, like, it's been a step by step that they knew where they want to go and to be, and for obvious reasons, it's nothing where you just start from scratch and develop it all new.
Yeah.
But this
and the relevance of this particular use case has grown continuously since the days. One regulation after the other popping up, and with huge fines in the background. The groundworks were there, but usability and more pragmatic shapes of that approach, all that has developed, and it will remain very, very relevant to the market.
Yeah. And so one thing is that it has also changed over the time if you're looking back at old IT. So with the real integrating these use cases into one platform that is provided over the cloud, you now have much better possibilities of deploying. You don't have all this implementation, getting the infrastructure set up, the databases, the importing the schemata and everything like that. Jochen, you remember, of what do we have to do to get the ARIS running? But it's more or less like deploying within a day and then getting, of course, the SSO into the infrastructure is still, there's still some work there. But the scalability of the solution is also there. So principally adding, activating certain modules, then extending the use case. It's something that it's not limiting. Before, there was like in the heads, the financial, technically, there were all burdens where they say, okay, can we go big? Can we grow with this? Yeah. And I think from a psychological aspect, and this is why ARIS is a good example, but it's representing like a lot of development in IT that we, with our customers, discuss how they can go on this journey, where so many of these advantages of cloud are being, really having significant impact on the way people are easier at deploying such solutions on a more global level because of the lack of hurdles that were there before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think that these last 10 years have really shown that things take time, but there has been a continuous like development, which has now provided a platform where I can be a game changer. Again, I think here it's the technology is there, or it will be provided, integrated in such an environment of a platform within the next, let's say, months, or maybe, but we're not talking years, but maybe, it's there more or less. The adoption on the organizational side, how to then deploy this in a real value adding creation process, that's going to take longer. So I think here, the speed, before we said 10 years for the system to get there and the organization to get there. Okay. I think now so much of this platform is there that the innovation cycles with which new features can be, let's say, triggered, especially with AI, are becoming faster. But are the organizations keeping up with that speed? I don't think so. So the limiting factor will be on the human side, not on the technology side. That was different before, or in balance at some time. But let's say I would say that's to be seen. Just looking at the clock, we're just ticking into 36 minutes. So, and I think we've covered this topic quite good. So, Prakar, what are we going to be for our next session? What have you foreseen so Jochen and I can realm in the past dark dungeons of our newsletters? Have you already checked out some article?
No, I haven't checked out a new article, but I am guessing it would be something related to business process management, because both of you have immense experience in that particular domain, and we have a lot of rich content, coming from the past as well. So I would definitely like to bring up something from the past so that we can have another conversation in regards to that particular topic, and I can enhance my knowledge. And it's always great to get in touch with you guys, and you get to share your experience and learn from that. So that's really great.
Yeah. And I think there's something interesting there. I've already have my eye on one. So let's keep everybody. I'll keep you. I'll inform you later. We'll take that up the next session. Yeah, I will. I'll pick out the next one. For the next one, I'm going to pick out the next one, and I'm really looking forward to see what Jochen has to say to the next article. Okay.
Don't make me blush.
Yeah, because you wrote it. You're the author.
My goodness.
I don't know. I think actually you were also the author of this, but you had Katarina publish it.
Not sure. Could be.
We'll see. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Prakar, if that's fine for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be great.
Good. Thanks for setting this up. I think that was a real nice remembrance here that we could take up on. Great. And I hope it gave you some information and insights.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was really great. Yeah.
Thank you, and talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Again.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Nice day.
Okay, recording stopped.